Good afternoon, everybody. It is Mark Dolfini at the Landlord Coach Daily Show. I hope you're having a great day. Before we get too far down the road, we're going to talk about refrigerators and Zillow. Yes, neither one has anything to do with the other, but let's go ahead, drop the needle.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, ignition, liftoff.
Hey everybody, it is Mark Dolfini. It is the Landlord Coach Daily Show. We've got another great day planned for you, and it's going to be quite a bit. We've got you're thinking like, okay, what in the world is he talking about? Refrigerators, Zillow, okay, whatever. Nothing. I'm just letting you know right now. One has absolutely nothing to do with the other, so don't get too crazy. I haven't lost my mind completely, but it was interesting because today. I was talking to my lead maintenance guy in my real estate business about trying to troubleshoot some problem with the refrigerators, and I think probably one of the main things that brings that people get frustrated with in the real estate space is they feel like they have to have a vast amount of knowledge about everything, and I made that mistake early on, thinking I needed to know everything about everything. So I tried to know as much as I could about maintenance and banking and accounting and tax laws and all these different things. I don't think that people necessarily need to have a deep knowledge and all this stuff, but I think it does help to have at least a cursory knowledge of just some basic things. So I want to talk about a quick thing that I was trying to help troubleshoot a potential problem with a refrigerator today. And or it was a problem, so I'll just tell you what the problem was. So the resident had been calling in saying that the refrigerator kept tripping the breaker, right? So naturally, it's easy to think that it might be either the refrigerator or the breaker or something along those lines, right? Something's causing the problems, a problem with the breaker to keep tripping. And it's important to understand, what it is like if you have a maintenance guy that's going in and fixing your stuff. So you're thinking, okay, well, who should I call? Should I call an electrician who's not going to work on your refrigerator? Or should I call an appliance repairman who likely won't work on your circuit breaker panel? So really what to do? And if it's a problem that's not happening all the time, then it can be even more tricky to diagnose. So it's important to understand a little bit about refrigerators, going up, and you're kind of thinking like, why does this matter? Well, whether you rent or own, or, you're going to be a rental property operator at some point, or you currently are, it's important to understand how some of this stuff works. So really quick, it was a neat teaching point, because as I was sitting thinking about it, I'm like, well, the way that generally this works is it always goes back to the panel. That's where I always stop. And I always stop and think, okay, well, the cheapest repair or the cheapest way to help diagnose this is to swap out the breaker, right? Because the breaker generally is going to trip it's usually when an appliance starts, right? When an appliance first starts, it's got a surge of amperage that, where the draw is coming in the most, right? To get the appliance moving, and then it kind of meters out. That's why if you ever have tripped a breaker when you start the microwave, that's why, because it takes a lot of amperage to get it going, and so the starting amps are always higher than the running amps. Okay, that should just so you understand that. So like if you start a toaster, or you start a microwave, or you start a coffee pot, that's generally when it's going to trip the breaker at the starting point, if you've already got other things running on that same circuit. So in this particular case, I think it's probably the refrigerator going bad, meaning that as the refrigerator ages, it gets tougher and tougher for that compressor to get started, and it puts more and more strain on the circuit breaker, and therefore that's what's causing it to trip. Okay, so the cheapest repair at this point in time, or at least attempt to try to diagnose what's going on, is to replace the circuit breaker, because the circuit breakers are just a few dollars, right? Whereas replacing a refrigerator could be $600-700 if you can even get them at all. Right now, if you're watching this in the COVID era, everything is just taking weeks longer to get. Even trying to order appliances online, many of them you just can't get because they might have been missing one or two components out of putting the entire refrigerator together, so therefore the entire line stops right until they get that one component. So anyway, that's the one thing that I just thought would be interesting to talk about. But the other thing I want to talk about today is Zillow, and it kind of oh my gosh, Zillow drives me absolutely bananas. And if anybody is a real estate professional, I know how they feel about their true feelings about how they want to handle Zillow, especially if you're a realtor or if you're a property manager. It's absolutely like these Zestimates that they put out there they're not helping anybody by having these Zestimates that are almost always so much over and above what the actual market is representing, especially rent Zestimates. I've never seen one. I can't ever remember seeing one that wasn't at least 5 to 10% overpriced, and that doesn't help anybody. So I have no idea where they're actually getting that number from. It's certainly on any basis of actual data that they're collecting. It doesn't seem to be anyway. So if you're a realtor, I certainly understand why you would maybe want to strangle the folks at Zillow, or maybe just the entire platform of Zillow, right? So anyway, that leads us to the most ridiculous thing I found on the internet today.
So ridiculous.
Yes, so ridiculous. Okay, so the most ridiculous thing that I found on Zillow today was actually that they buy houses. And this kind of following the iBuyer this phase of iBuying that's going on. And I really didn't know what that was. I started researching a little bit what that even meant. iBuyers, some people would refer to as internet buyers. Some people refer to it as instant buyers or institutional buyers, whatever. The point is that you've got a pocket of people that are out, researching, certain properties in certain areas, and they come up with a median or average value, and then if they'll make offers that are below that to buy the property without even seeing it, right? So they're just basically clicking boxes until they see a deal, and then they're doing this iBuying thing, right? So that seems to be all the rage. Well, Zillow has been doing this for a while now, and I wasn't really hip to it until I realized that there was a lot of realtors that did not like dealing with Zillow because they're, in effect, have become their competition. Not only are they doing brokerage in some areas, but they're also buying the properties direct, and they're basically trying to act as a wholesaler. They might do a light rehab on a property, but basically what they're doing is they're going in to a market and they will make an offer, in select markets, they will, and I'm going to do my best to try to get this right because I was trying to figure out how this makes sense for people, but I suppose if it solves a problem for somebody, I don't have a problem with somebody else making money, but the size of the amount of fees on this are just absolutely mind-boggling. In addition to, I guess, the ability to, maybe making it easier for somebody, I guess. So this is, if you're looking at the site, I know it's a little bit hard to see, but the cost of, if you're looking at the cost of selling comparison there on the page, it talks about, you get to pick which day you want to close and all that stuff. But I'm going to skip over to the next segment, which I thought was probably the most interesting, which is the transactional costs, right? So there is definitely some benefits. It makes it a little bit easier. You're not having a bunch of showings. You don't have to prepare the house. They'll basically take it as is. You don't have to have people parading in and out of your house and all that stuff. So there is some benefit to that. But I think when you're looking at the actual costs and you're starting to look at the transactional costs, that's where the wheels come off the wagon. So if you look at the screen there, the selling costs are 6% normally, and they're still charging the 6%, both on Zillow and a traditional transaction would be 6%. Closing costs 1% to 2%. They're still charging the same closing costs of 1% to 2%. Now, the Zillow does charge a service charge, and if you're looking on it, it's 2.5% on average. Okay, you click that little question mark there and open it up, and yeah, that seems to where it just I'm thinking this is where it gets ridiculous because the fee ranges from anywhere from 1.5% to 7.9%. If you add all of that up, it's 15.9% that you could pay potentially up to that. Now, I don't know when they disclose the service charge. I don't know if that's, it varies for each property, but I don't know when they tell you this. I'm certain because it's a real estate transaction, they're going to have to disclose this, fairly early in the thing, but fairly early, in the process. But that 16%, just to put that in perspective, for $100,000 property, that's almost 16 grand just in transactional costs. Right? Now, keep in mind, they're also buying the property to resell. So don't make any, let's not get this twisted. They're going to make an offer on the property so they can resell it and make money on it. I mean, there's no bones about that. That's the whole point. They're not going to, as far as I can tell, Zillow's not in the rental business. So they are going to price that property as if they're going to resell it to either, maybe do a light rehab or something like that. But they're not going to not make money on this. So I get it. It's a business. I mean, maybe for some people it would be worth it, to not have to deal with the hoop jumping of having an open house and listing it with a realtor and having a sign in the yard and the whole thing. But man, just, I guess, know what you're getting into before you, know what all the costs are. Because if you remember in previous segments, we talked about, obviously managing fees is one of those things that wealthy people do. And if you're not managing fees carefully enough, man, you can get soaked. And not only are you giving it up a lot in potential fees, but you're also not even getting full market value for it. So I don't know. To me, the juice isn't worth the squeeze on that. All right. Anyway, that's all I have for today. Please remember to place a value on your free time, because if you don't, someone else will. Most important, there is no amount of money that will make time irrelevant. Have a great rest of your day, and I will see you next time.